Midweek in the city. Let me say a very special good morning to Chante Codrington, Director of W.I.R.E Industrial Renewable Energy Limited. Good morning. How are you?
A wonderful
What's
good
happening?
morning.
Nice to see you again, man.
Thank you.
All is well?
Yes, all is well. It's an honor to be here, a privilege. I want to say thank you, Dave, and the production team here at Good Morning Antigua and Barbuda for having me. It's not an opportunity that I take lightly or for granted, so I truly want to say thank you for having me.
We talk about energy, and we know, of course, how it's important that we get the cost of energy down. What is the goal of W.I.R.E Limited?
Oh, yes, WIRE. WIRE has one simple goal: reduce Antigua and Barbuda's dependence on fossil fuel by 50% in 10 years.
50%?
Yes,
okay.
Half. We will accomplish this goal by installing a 20-megawatt offshore wind farm. Now, Antigua and Barbuda has the highest cost of electricity within the Caribbean region. The last time I checked, it was $1.81, according to APUA's power plant summary production in September of 2012. To give you an idea of what that $1.81 means, Trinidad and Tobago has the most affordable cost of electricity within the Caribbean region at merely 8 cents EC per kilowatt an hour. So on one end of the spectrum you have 8 cents, on the other end of the spectrum you have $1.81 EC per kilowatt an hour. We don't have to live like this here in Antigua and Barbuda.
Before I go on, Trinidad and Tobago, they produce, of course, natural energy, don't they?
Correct, they do.
So that's why the cost is so low. Correct.
You're absolutely correct. However, I always say because Trinidad and Tobago produce their own natural energy, it's not an excuse as to why the cost of electricity should be so high here in Antigua and Barbuda.
Why an offshore wind farm?
Two main reasons. One, wind is the most affordable and efficient renewable energy source. Secondly, Antigua and Barbuda is only 108 square miles. Lands are scarce. People are willing to purchase whatever piece of land the government or a private entity is willing to sell, even if it's not in the best of conditions. Now, when you couple that with the fact that the cost of electricity is astronomically high within the country and the government needs to implement a renewable energy source, the solution was evident to WIRE, an offshore wind farm.
Wonderful. What if the government doesn't implement WIRE, renewable energy proposal? You've made a proposal.
Correct.
To the government. What happened?
Well, that, of course, it would be disheartening, but not just for me. Also for the other individuals who I have already brought on to WIRE. 10 of the highest positions within WIRE are all filled by Antiguans. So when you talk about job creations and empowering locals, WIRE is number one. When you talk about affordability and the cost being charged to the government per kilowatt an hour, WIRE is number one. This in turn means that the government is able to make a larger percentage profit selling that same electricity back to the people of Antigua and Barbuda, which of course means workers who are deserving of increases, they will get it. Workers who are deserving of their back pay, they will get it. And any other social program that the government would like to tackle, they will be able to do so. And then finally, the long-term goal and proposal. WIRE within, from 5 to 10 years, WIRE will basically cut its price in half that it is charging to the government, which would allow for the government to lower its costs even lower. And we will continue that two-step process, WIRE lowering its costs, the government lowering its costs, until, believe it or not, the cost of electricity being charged to Antiguans and Barbudans is as low as 5 cents EC per kilowatt an hour and even lower.
Why are you so sure that the project that you want to implement can work?
It has been done before. A perfect example is Aruba. Aruba's economy is similar to ours, where 60% of our GDP comes from tourism. 80% of Aruba's GDP comes from tourism. In 2009, they implemented, they installed a 30 megawatt, sorry, not offshore, but onshore wind farm. Since then, Aruba's electricity has fallen by 25%. They have reduced their dependence on fossil fuel by 20%, and they intend to reduce it to 100% by 2020. That's just around the corner.
Who are some of the technocrats in WIRE?
I'm glad you asked. That will be revealed on the day of. We get that invitation from the government to present.
Oh, you haven't made your presentation to government, is it?
The previous administration, and as you know, on the June 12th, when there was the general elections, there was a change of government. And so I'm basically back at, I would say, square two, which is presenting its WIRE's proposal to the government. Square one was letting the people, educating the people and making them aware of what WIRE is about. So square two involves presenting our proposal to the government. When I came back from university in December of 2013, I could have simply said from the jump, WIRE intends to install an offshore wind farm, but instead I simply said, WIRE will install a wind farm. And when I started seeing certain patterns being developed, then I revealed that it was going to be an offshore wind farm, which is to say that everything has a process. And so in due time, I will let the public know, update it on the company's website, which is www.wire, W-I-R-E, dash, you have to put the dash or you won't go in, you won't find it, dash anuco.com, and they'll be able to know who these individuals are. And it's one thing I love most about my company is that it's young individuals who are at the head of the various managers. Nobody within the company is above the age of 30. We all have our respective degrees in our respective fields. I'm actually the youngest one, but I'm confident about the future of WIRE.
I'm looking at WIRE Limited. What is the cost to put down a wind farm of the one that you're proposing? Would it be your cost or the government's cost?
It would be WIRE's cost, 100% private. We can do a joint venture, but I think that would only complicate matters. And so the only thing that the government would have to worry about is simply purchasing the electricity according to what the meter says. And so it would be 100% private.
Privately owned?
Correct.
Is there costs surrounding that to install and to erect such a company?
Yes, there is. The overall cost is $122 million US.
Slow that round.
Yes.
Wait, 122 what?
Million US dollars. Now, the investment, the funding of the project, 70% will come from the international community. My 8 years that I stayed in Houston, Texas, I was fortunate to meet some of the most wealthiest individuals within the country. I told them what my plans are, and what I loved most about their reaction was that they were more so glad because they understood that it works both ways. It's not just good for Antigua and Barbuda, but it's also good for Texas and the country, the United States as a whole. So I've reserved, so 70% of the investment will come from the international community. 30% I have made sure that I've reserved for Antiguan and Barbudan investors. So once the contract is handed over to WIRE, a power purchase agreement, there would be a deadline for Antiguan and Barbudan investors to invest in WIRE. Now, depending on how many investors step forward and the amount they're willing to invest, that 30% may increase to 35 or it may decrease to 25. It just all depends. But Antiguans first. It is a principle that my father, as you know, Chante Codrington, has always advocated, and it is a principle that I intend to take as my own.
Now, I'm trying to do the maths in EC. And that's a lot of money. But wait a minute. That you said, when I first heard you said Texas and beneficial, I thought you were going to say environmentally to the world. But then there's the investors are coming out of Texas.
Correct.
So it's a 30% owned Antigua company, 70%. So it's 70-30.
Correct.
And so the profits are going back to Texas?
No. Again, like I said, it just all depends on how many investors step forward and the amount that they're willing to invest. So it may increase. I can tell you, even as of right now, I don't know. That's left up to God. I'm
going to ask you one question here, because I have not a statement, but something I observed. Go ahead. Finish your statement.
Let me finish by saying this. And I was speaking to a friend about it just the other day, and he confirmed it as well. There's money in Antigua and Barbuda's economy, but what it is, the consumer confidence is down. I buy and sell stocks within the U.S. And when you listen to NBC, MSNBC, and so on, and these networks talking about the stock market, one thing you'll hear them talk about is consumer confidence. Now, whenever you have a tragic event within the country, consumer confidence comes down, people begin to sell their stocks and they put it in gold. Now, although here in Antigua and Barbuda, we don't have that, we don't have a stock market, we do have consumer confidence. So investors are unlikely and reluctant to invest their money. But once that consumer confidence goes up, when a project like W.I.R.E comes onto stream, that it would restore the consumer confidence within the investors here in Antigua and Barbuda. So I confidently believe there's money within Antigua and Barbuda. It's just that the investors are reluctant to spend their money.
What if the government doesn't implement a renewable energy proposal altogether? What's the success for W.I.R.E? How can it be successful?
Well, it's not even about W.I.R.E at that point. It's about the country as a whole, and it gets really scary. There are several things that the people of Antigua and Barbuda should know. One, our peak demand consumption is 51 megawatts. Now, you don't have to wonder what 51 megawatt looks like. Just bear it in mind. Two, 80 to 90% of the electricity generated within the country is supplied by APC, which is the only independent power provider within the country. And they own a 51 megawatt power plant. Now, as a result of the court case between APC and the government, which started in 2008 and ended in 2013, the government has to pay APC $300 million. $1,200 million a month, $150 million a year until the debt is paid off. These numbers I got directly out of the office of APC. I was fortunate to sit with the owners and they conferred that information with me. Now, when that $300 million is paid off, the 51 megawatts will be turned over to the government completely. Come 2018, that's when APC's contract expires. Come 2018, and APC is not paid their money in full. From my understanding, they have all right to decommission the generators and ship them overseas to Syria or whichever country they so choose until the government pays them their money in full. Where does that leave Antigua and Barbuda?
Without electricity?
Basically in a complete blackout. That means Antiguans and Barbudans won't even have electricity to watch this video. And so it is important, it is imperative that the government acts now. They will sooner or later find themselves at a crossroad, but the longer that they wait, the more difficult it will be. The comments that Senator Lennox Weston, I believe, made about Antigua and Barbuda being a failed state, he's actually correct. He just got the timeline wrong. It's not 4 days or 5 days, but it's actually in 4 years if the government does not act now. But I do have to add that APC owns 27, well, they currently own and operate 27 megawatts. And come 2018, the 27 megawatt will be transferred over to the government. No money need to change hands or anything like that. However, these power plants have a lifespan of approximately 20 years, including the offshore wind farm that W.I.R.E intends to install. From 1996, when the 27 megawatt power plant was installed, to 2018, that's 22 years. So by the time the government gets those generators, they would be inefficient.
Can be obsolete.
Precisely.
It's a pity I don't have enough time to spend with you because time on the wall tell me something. But you said something and my curiosity piqued when I heard the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda at Sandals Grand yesterday declare that he's going to sue a private power company, energy supplying company. You were with CEO, what are their names? What's it? Where were you? You said you had a privilege to see?
Yes, APC. I was privileged to sit with the owners.
Is there any breaking news? Is it ACP is going to sue?
APC? I don't believe so. I read it, and that was my same reaction.
Leave it alone. I thought you knew, because if you're reading the financial reports, then you may be close to them to know that. But of course, hope I get another opportunity to speak to you. Time has come and gone. Of course, I wish you well for Antigua and Barbuda's sake. If this project comes to fruition, it means that we should be sitting pretty like Trinidad and Tobago. There you go. With the price
Precisely.
that we're paying for electricity in for energy overall in Antigua and Barbuda. Thanks for being with me this
Thank
morning,
you
Mr.
for having
Codrington.
me.
We wish you all the best, and young men like you need to always be really pushed to the top. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
It's Good Morning Antigua and Barbuda. Stay tuned for the morning news.